I am not going chronologically, I'm going along with events, similar events. So the next day, the big war event in Madras was the Japanese bomb some 30 years later, 1942-43. Singapore had fallen to the Japanese. Singapore was a major base for the Allied powers. When Singapore fell to the Japanese, the Allied camp shifted to Madras and Avadi to be specific. The people of Madras did not know what was happening in Avadi. In 1946, after the end of the war, a lot of journalists were taken to Avadi and shown how something like 20,000 soldiers, 3 airfields, 2 cinema theaters, 3 swimming pools, a private railway track inside, all these survived in that area between Pattabhiram and Avadi. I'm still told that the railway track takes a bend, a detour, so as not to hit this, because it was late during that time. The local people did not know about the camp, but they did not know why, and that is why they did not know why that the Japanese were trying to attack Madras fervently. The British went all over in arming Madras for the theatre of war in the Far East, and seaplanes, the Catalina seaplanes, used to land in Red Hills Lake. There were airfields all over Madras. One of these airfields was even used for your Sholavaram racetrack much later. And with the Tambaram or the Meenambakam, everything was made into Royal Air Force tracks. A lot of British and American troops were in Madras. We get a lot of photographs from the American soldier photographers who came to Madras at the time, which pinpoint to us to their history. The Japanese concentrated on attacking Madras and other towns nearby. Colombo and Kakinada had been attacked, and an ARP is called an Air Raid Patrol. So it was organized, it's a government civilian link up so that there could be a lot of coordination in the defense. So the ARP put up advertisements in the newspaper saying Japan declares war, Madras now in the war area, and said it is hoped our passive defense will receive impetus. It is not too late to train. And finally it says Madras must not burn. So Madras not burning due to the Japanese Axis powers was very important to the British, because this is where they were giving their last stand after most of Far East Asia had fallen to the Japanese. So on the left you see the trench, 22 kilometers of trenches were dug in Madras. So they could have thousands of people there. People are told that when air raid warning wailed, if in a building, stay there. If in the open, take care in the nearest building or go to the nearest street slit trench. Don't move until the raiders' past is solved. And how alarming it could be to the local people if, just like your coronavirus today that people hand out, and people are given this chart to recognize if the enemy was overflying or it was a friendly aircraft. It caused a lot of alarm in the city. If people dropped a vessel in the kitchen, half a dozen people would have a heart attack. Every flying bird was suspect. So that was the terror that Madras underwent in the 1942-43 period. The biggest disaster was shooting the zoo. How many of you know that the entire Madras Zoo was shot, not by the enemy, but by friendly fire, the Malabar police? The reason? I'll get to the story. Madras has a long tradition of exhibiting animals. The initial zoo was in the museum compound. That is how we know of the Weir College and Sattya College and Weir College. And people, after this, had moved to the People's Park next to the compound of the central station today. And the managers in the corporation were worried, what if a stray bomb hits the zoo and opens up the zoo? Wild animals will be let loose on an unsuspecting population. This problem was not unique to Madras. Every city in the world faced it. With a big zoo and the scare of bombing, faced this. Berlin Zoo was bombed by the Royal Air Force, and wild animals had to be shot street to street by their police. And then, luckily, it didn't happen in India, but in other places, even like England, pets had to be put to sleep because there was not enough food for them. So 500,000 pets were killed in England during those last weeks of the war. So in Madras, what happened? When they decided, the mayor Chakrai Chetty, spoke to a lot of zoos in India, asking that whether they would take these animals for free. But most of them face the same problem. They didn't have feed, they didn't have the security from bombing, so why should they take it? Erode agreed to take it, but they said they would take it in a week. But the order to shoot the animals came. 3 lions, 6 lionesses, 4 tigers, 8 leopards, 4 bears and a black panther were shot in a matter of an hour. Elephants were not shot because perhaps they didn't have enough labor. Most people had run away. They didn't have enough labor to dig a grave for it. For accounting purposes, the invaluable population of the zoo was accounted at 4,568 rupees. This is just a small trivia. But that accounting system, how much we had lost, was never really reflected on this account. A big chunk of the Madras population ran away. This is a real watercolor. This is in USA right now. But this painting was done in Madras, and this and another painting was of people escaping a war-torn Madras on bullock carts. The evacuation perhaps was the greatest danger that ever faced Madras. People in large number felt that the city would be bombed to smithereens by the Japanese, and they had to escape as well. It was not safe to live, they thought. So they were tired of blackouts and mock air raids exercises, false alarms. So they thought they had to run away. And at one point, the British government went along with them and said, you shift from exposed positions. And government sent an advice to city firms and banks, move out. What the government meant was exposed positions was the beach road, where all the commercial and the government capital was there. The beach seemed to be the first point of invasion. So officers shifted inside. Even the collector shifted to the building called the Cloisters. A lot of people would not know the Cloisters is still the commerce department of the Stella Maris College. And the building still exists. The Tahsildar moved, and the city civil court moved, Madras GPO moved, and for those who live in Mylapore, the Reserve Bank Treasury section moved to where the Kamadhenu Theatre was. At that time, the officers moving were not encouraging to the common public. They were seeing the government running for shelter. So they thought the villages would be safer. This is a cartoon, but Madras never loses its sense of humor. When you look at the number of memes and the number of jokes that you get about coronavirus, and you still laugh at it. Sometimes I think it is not the way we should handle problems. But even then, and there was a danger of a Japanese bomb, and there's a danger of scarcities. Magazines like the Jagan Mohini ran a cartoon of an overweight girl being pushed into an overcrowded train leaving Madras. It says Madras to Tiruchirappalli. And this is a magazine, Jagan Mohini, was run by a very popular Tamil writer called Vaimu Kodanaigi. I will just give you a small trivia, though not associated with this talk. Vaimu Kodanaigi was illiterate when she wrote her first novel. Then she learned Tamil and went on to write 115 more novels, and also edited this magazine of Jagan Mohini. What would you do when you want to run away from your house? You take your valuables, count your children, and find a way of leaving the city. But you also need to lock your house. On the late 30s, there were only around 50 lock-making units in Dindigul. And locks were not being imported from Japan because Japan was at war. Non-availability of locks delayed the departure of many Madrasis, who got nervous every moment. The price of locks went sky high, and there was a new breed of brigands who specialized in stealing locks. They would steal the locks from one place and sell it to somebody else who unsuspectingly bought it and lock it into their house only to lose it in a day or two. I think one of these voices is not muted. There are 2 roads, the Kundratur road from Porur and the Bangalore highway, which the government differentiated for slow and fast moving traffic. They wanted people to go out. And a consequence, rent set up in other places. And Kumbakonam actually reports in the Indian Express saying that the rent has gone up there, sequel to the exodus from Madras. This is Kuruvilla Jacob, who was the principal of the MCC school then. He would send a letter to the parents asking them not to fear Japanese, be courageous, and also pay the next few months of school fees in advance. So that is how careful people were being. We are repeating history, just like it was told in the earlier introduction about Santa Ana saying those who forget the lessons of history are forced to repeat it. You don't have to forget them. They will get repeated even if you don't forget. So the school fee is asking you to be paid in advance. And even library books. The Madras University Library said return the tickets and return the books as if it was primary for a city that was going to be bombed. And what happened finally? Madras was bombed just one day. It was 1943. And the irony was, this is a part of the bomb which is in the museum, the Fort Museum rather. And finally, when the bomb fell, ironically, nobody knew in the city. There was a cyclone going on, there was a power cut, and there was no alarm, raid warning alarms going on. And it came in the newspaper 3-4 days later because of the censorship. And people realized that Madras had been bombed. The bombs fell harmlessly north of the fort, between Reserve Bank and the fort, and a few sheep were killed, and a shepherd was hurt. So that is what happened when, after 3 years, it became such a big anticlimax that no bombs hurt Madras.